Yeah. Anything else?
Nothing else because we're live.
Look at my haircut and my hair something style thing. It was like I had a mad scientist and then I combed it and then I don't know what this is anymore.
It's a mad scientist. That's what it is.
It's mad scientist.
That's why I wear headphones. So it looks like my hair is actually quite good, but it's not.
But your hair is usually quite good. And when your general physical demeanor is usually good, at the very least, if not really great.
Well, thank you very much.
Mine. There's not necessarily that. But yeah, I wanted to go to the hairdressers, but she didn't have any space this past week, so I'm going this next week.
You could just shave it all off.
I might actually. I've been wondering about shaving it all off.
I was kidding. Really?
Oh,
go for it.
I might. I think I scared my girlfriend when I told her that. I was like, "Yeah, I did that a few years ago," and I was like, "Oh, maybe I'm ready for another complete do-over." It'll end up being the same by the end, but I have a phase of renewal or something.
It's true. We had so you've been away. We haven't spoken for about a month.
Yeah.
At the beginning of March, we had World Book Day. And even
so was that a school event or just a day?
It's like a universal school event in the UK. Everybody, oh yeah, it's ridiculous. No, it's not that bad. But
it's not really,
everybody dresses up. It's something from a book.
Oh, okay. I wouldn't have thought of that as a dressing up event, but yeah, sure, makes sense.
It's become a thing, and my form class said, "Well, let's dress up as minions, and you can be Gru." And I said, "Well, that's not really a book." And then they were like, "Yeah, there's probably a book of Despicable Me. It's fine. Just dress up as whatever."
Well, that seems like it's stretching the rules a little bit.
Oh yeah, totally.
Because you already have a lot of characters from actual books. It's not
exactly.
It's not that you're lacking characters.
Exactly.
But anyhow, you're a Gru.
So I shaved my beard off, and I had a bald cap on that was skin tone, which means didn't match my skin tone at all. And I bought a massive nose, a stripy scarf, and a jacket.
Good.
But what I realized is that I could be multiple characters at once. Yes, I could be Gru, but I also became the child catcher with the addition of the appropriate hat from Chitty Bang Bang. And then I also became Scrooge.
Was Chitty Bang Bang a book?
Yeah, it was originally a book.
Although
I haven't seen the whole film, to be fair.
I wasn't sure. That's why I asked.
And then I can also be Scrooge as well. So I had a lot of fun. But it goes back to this thing about hair. I was clean shaven. Everybody freaked out.
Oh yeah.
Teachers were like, "I didn't recognize you." It didn't help. It didn't help that I had a massive nose and I looked stupid.
But you're occasionally clean shaven. Well, at the beginning of November, for example.
I know, but it's the response of the pupils. They're like, "No, you look wrong. No, why did you?" And I said, "Well, I'm not that attached to my beard," and they didn't get the joke. And then changing appearances, people get really stuck on it.
Yeah, they do. Big time.
So shave off all your hair. Maybe we should both shave our hair off.
Yeah, why not?
I don't know.
I'm not sure if I'm ready for it. But
have you ever had a Mohican? I don't know if that's the right phrase.
Not had
like shaved.
Just the middle, like a Travis Bickle type thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that. I have not had that.
Yeah, it does change your outlook on things.
It changed other people's outlooks on you.
Well, that's what changes my outlook. That's what changed my outlook. I started to realize you feel the same, but people respond to you completely differently when you look in a way that's ridiculous or unexpected. But you can play with it. My favorite story about this, and this ties into characters. I'm going to go back to Bird by Bird in a bit because I haven't finished it, but it's so good. I
haven't finished any books either. I was busy doing other things. So I read a tiny bit, but not much.
I thought you'd have read quite a bit. But when we were doing a training course together, me and one of our mutual friends with Landmark, we were both wearing clothes and we swapped clothes. So I wore what he wore, and he dresses so
In the middle of the
appallingly
day?
a lot of the time. Yeah, partway through the course. So I was dressed like I look cool. Of course, I look cool, and
Sure.
he just looked like, oh my god. And
A teacher?
well, no, he was on his off day, so he was wearing like tracksuit bottoms and a vest and a t-shirt and like I don't know what it was. But we swapped, and then we're standing at the front of the room. And the course leader's like, she said to me, oh, she said to him, "You look really different. You look like just because he had like one of my shirts on and a hat and like everything just looked different." And then she turned to me. She goes, "You seem at the front of the room the same. Doesn't seem like you're any different." And I thought, you know what? I'm really happy with that because I make the clothes.
Yeah.
I wear the clothes. The clothes that I wear them, and who I am is so. Ever since then, I have no problem changing around, playing with things, doing things clothes-wise, trying things out, whatever. But it's really, really interesting. I think it does go back to who we are as people and how comfortable we are with our beingness, if you want to say it, and
I
expressing
think
it.
it probably goes back to presence and charisma as well.
I mean, I think our mutual friend isn't uncharismatic.
No, I'm not saying that. Well, I don't know about that. that you make the clothes.
Yeah.
Is that if you're in any way, shape, or form uncomfortable or just
Yeah.
if you're thinking about how you're dressed or if you're not completely, then you're probably not charismatic. You're not present. Something's in the way of you being completely there. If that makes any kind of sense for
That makes
our
sense to
listeners,
me.
I don't know. It makes sense to you, I think.
Yeah.
Because just like if we go back to a definition, being present, and I've heard this definition as being as a proxy for being charismatic. Being charismatic is being present to what's present, so that there's nothing in the way of you being present. You're just in the same way that you're meditating. So if something's in the way of you being there, then you're not being charismatic, you're not being there. So perhaps if you have something in the way of like how your clothes are, or that you're not used to them, or that could be a reason why you're not fully present, and then by proxy perhaps being charismatic.
I think that's
Maybe.
well expressed. I think that's a good way of looking at it. And the thing and this does segue, the thing we're talking about character and we're talking about presence and all of that. Bird by Bird, oh my word, it's so good.
You still haven't finished it. It's very small, but it's good, right?
So good. Yeah. I'm absorbing it and thinking about it. I can read a chapter and then think about it.
I should read it again. I should write, really.
Well,
I can't remember if I told you this because I think it was just after we talked last. But I went to one of my writers' groups, and one person said, "Oh, how's your writing going?" I was like, "Whoa, that's a very good question. I haven't done any kind of writing."
No, you've done some professional writing, haven't you?
I have done some professional writing, but she meant anything progress towards a fiction project. And really, I hadn't been writing at all towards any of the short story, novel, or anything. Although I don't even have a novel project on the go, and I haven't done anything. And I caught up with another friend who does write a lot and writes professionally this week, just as I got back, and yeah, he hasn't been writing either. Although that just justifies me not writing.
It's so much of what she articulates in that book is what I've experienced. There's the thing that I like is rubbish first drafts, just write, and it's going to be rubbish, and then you go back to it and you write. But I've had some of the experiences she talks about where you're writing and then you're not sure where it's going and you're exploring as you write, and the characters write themselves. Like they're real people. They're things that you've said or heard or done and observed and watched, and like it is like tapping into a river of something.
I think Elizabeth Gilbert talks about that kind of stuff in Big Magic as well.
Oh,
In more frou-frou type terms.
Okay.
But
I'm
yeah,
really
Bird
enjoying
by Bird, I
Bird.
really enjoyed it. I did really enjoy it. Are you writing as well, or as a result of it,
Well,
or are you writing?
I'm doing a lot of, well, you asked, it's a good question, because in my initial answer when I thought about am I writing is no.
Mhm.
But the amount of writing that I'm doing that's school related and learning related, and be it exam answers or because I've restructured the way I teach, it's involving a lot more writing.
Mm.
And I'm having to pull ideas from textbooks, from stuff online, and then think about how I want to explain it. And I'm putting examples in and stories in and my own, as I teach business, sometimes all my examples are about ice cream shops. There's one lesson that was talking about operations, and I just talked about the localized. There's an ice cream shop relatively near me, and the ice cream is so good.
Yeah,
It's just
good example.
it's so good, and I'm telling all these stories. So I'm using the things that I find interesting writing about in all my examples in my teaching. So in that sense, I'm definitely writing. I'm definitely having to craft how I put things down on paper and articulate my thoughts and think about how I want to best explain it to an audience. And I actually think it's almost like being a journalist. Almost. It's probably not as pressure driven and as you have to be as good with your words, but
the end format's not the same either, no?
Not quite.
It's not a 500 to 800 word article or something.
Sometimes some of my exam answers, they're a bit kind of like an article. Okay. But I'm definitely writing. But it means that when I've got another blog post I want to write, and I'm like, I don't even start. The resistance. Can't be bothered. Even though I've also got a few fully formed ideas that I want to just write and see where it goes. Haven't done it. Dark Splendor on the Green. I've got a really good idea for it.
Yes, you still haven't written it.
And I haven't written it. But I know exactly.
It's the writing thing.
The whole story's there.
And I think it's part of Bird by Bird and any kind of writing advice is you have to spend time writing. It doesn't have to be good. You have to write. And I don't do that. I haven't been doing that for weeks, and certainly not since the beginning of the year. Aside from, yes, I did spend time writing a couple of blog posts and articles, LinkedIn things for work. Mm-hmm. Work-related proxy for promotions and or talking about the industry of marketing and advertising, etc. And a little bit of course preparation, like you, a little bit less than you. But the ice cream shop, you just reminded me, I can't remember, I might have told you because I was raving about that thing for a while, and it circles back because it was so good. There's a long form story called The Cold War from a few years ago about the war between certain ice cream trucks in the suburbs of Portland, Oregon.
No, I don't know.
And it's amazing. It's really, really good. I'll send that to you.
Oh my God, I got to read that.
It's really good.
And it's a journalistic.
It's true story. Yeah. True cold story, ice cream truck.
It sounds like I could use it in a lesson.
Yeah, you might be able to.
I'll just wedge it in. They don't read enough. It's what annoys me.
It was in Epic magazine. There you go.
And because they're not reading enough.
Very, very, very good. The Cold War, 2 ice cream vendors, 17 playgrounds, 1 city. Operation Desert Storm. It's really good. The whole thing takes like half an hour to read. I think it's fantastic.
Oh, that sounds great. Yeah, I'll read that. Well, maybe we'll talk about that on our next episode as a setup. Short things we've read, short stories you've read. Have you read?
I enjoy the idea of, and I do that myself as well in my classes, of choosing supports that you are familiar with, interested in, and that are likely or liable to be of interest to the students as well.
Yeah,
pupils. like, my last class on strategic planning, using examples from the theme park industry, because I was into it and I was looking at it, and yeah, that was as good a market as any to study, like what's going on in that kind of market, what's the strategy, what are the challenges they're dealing with, etc.
Stories are, I think, we are hardwired for stories, aren't we? I'm sure I've read that somewhere.
Yeah, of course.
Stories are really important.
Yeah.
I can't think of where I read
that's
it.
the title. I haven't seen it, but that's actually the title of sort of Yiddish slant of Steven Spielberg's thinly veiled biography book, The Fabelmans. The Fabelmans is the story man.
Oh.
And there is a man, the story. I think there's a Homo story, some from like theory from somebody saying that we're all based on stories.
I can imagine it's really important. I love stories.
Yeah, it is. I mean, you look at, so we talked a lot about, we used to talk a lot about, we don't do that much anymore. What's his face? Noah Yuval Harari, Dr. Noah, Professor Yuval Harari, talks about how fictions rule the world, and fictions hold our stories,
Myths, yes.
and myths hold a lot of the structures that are abstract and make our world and society function. Money, political structure, religion, etc. That for a lot of people are real, but really they're abstractions. They don't actually exist. You can't point them out in the real world. We made them up.
It's true.
Brand,
I just had another idea, and I might be able to I don't know if I'll be able to do it in this episode, but I did want to get your take on something else. Might have to save it for another episode. But the every year we have Enterprise Week at school, and they're all in groups. They're all like 16, 17, 18-year-olds.
Okay.
Each group has to they bid the chance to sell a product in a particular location at school.
I remember you mentioning this thing.
Yeah.
And they wanted me to do an intervention of some kind, no?
Yeah. I wanted you to judge it. And it's not going to work. I'm going to be a judge. But they all have to create an ad. 2 minutes. And honestly,
2 minutes, it's really long.
Yeah, it's really long. Or 2 minute maximum. Honestly, some of them are great.
And it's a video? It has to be a video?
It's a video.
Okay.
Some of them are great. Oh my gosh, some of them are so bad. So bad. So bad. And I'm massively critical of,
well, they still made it. It's a big effort to just make it at all, no?
Well, I don't know, because other year they've had loads of time this year, and
they do have editing software and phones with cameras.
Yeah. So but to be fair, some of them are really, really, really good. Really good. So while we're talking, I might see if I can find a link to the ads and get your take on it, because I would just love you to lay into them and just say they're terrible.
Sure, if you want. That sounds kind of mean to underage people, but we don't have to name anybody, I guess.
Oh, actually, yeah, I'm probably going to contravene data protection if we do play it, but never mind, I can't do that anymore. It's got pupils in it.
Oh, I thought you were just going to show me and not play it on screen, but still, it's not very interesting to. Well, no, there's nobody watching us, to be honest, so it doesn't really matter. I think we.
Well, I'd be getting I'd probably get in trouble for showing it. I've got to be careful about that.
Yeah,
because of anyway, never mind. So we haven't spoken for a month.
So nobody's showing anybody anything, even off air. Just do not imply any otherwise.
No, it's not happening. Nothing. But we haven't spoken for a month because you've been skiing.
Well, I was skiing for that's true, because I was away for 3 weekends. So yes. I was away skiing. I was away a lot more than skiing. My whole trip was skiing plus. It was a week in Vars, the same place I went last year with my brother and my nieces, because a family friend who lives in London owns a family apartment there, so it gives us a really good rate.
Oh, easy.
Yeah, and I didn't really want to go to the same place. Sorry, again, but it is very convenient and it's really well located and it's a nice resort. And my nieces really wanted to go back. They had a really great time. And also, even just before the ski trip, I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to even finance that one. Anyhow, yeah, I started looking at my finances on Friday and scared myself, and I was like, okay, I'll come back to this after the weekend. This is too much. Because in reality, I borrowed to finance that trip, really. But anyhow, so yeah, a week in Vars, which was really great. Rough for one of my nieces. The bigger niece started learning snowboarding and really did a really great job with that. But my younger niece, we had one moment of really big fear, or she had a real moment of really big fear. We went on top of the mountain that was just about clouded over, and it was very windy, cold, and icy. And she freaked out in the middle of a slope that she really knows how to ski big time, and she's just completely deer in headlights froze.
Wow.
And Morgan, his father, my brother, just kind of skied on, and he was first and I was last, and the two girls were in the middle. So I stayed with her for what seemed like an eternity. I ended up yelling at her, take a turn. You can take a turn, you can do it. It was really rough. She was crying, and it was very difficult. But yeah, also a reminder that it doesn't have to be, well, that was, I don't know, something just went beyond her ability to cope, and she couldn't deal with it anymore. And it's the worst possible moment, whether you're in the middle of really cold wind. And yes, it was icy, but she was entirely capable of doing it, but she just completely freaked out. So she was taking ages. And after a while of being calm, I just completely lost it. I just couldn't, and while also yelling at volume just because of to howl over the wind. And encourage her to take one more turn.
Wind, ice, cold.
And
wow.
And
young people.
And the big thing is she didn't get her levels. She was in lessons to get a certain, there's different levels, like stars, they're stars. And she didn't earn it, so she was really upset at the end of the week.
Because I've been on school ski trips, and listening to you, I remember I was skiing once. I couldn't see anything. It was so snowy.
Oh yeah, I had a lot of that. I had a lot of whiteout days over there. And
I had the sense of, I know I'm moving, but I feel like nothing is happening.
Yes, it's very weird. And you're skiing, you're literally, this is where you experience that you're skiing with your feet.
Yeah.
You have to feel, because you can't see where you're going, so you have to feel like what's happening under your feet, and it's very weird. You're moving, but you can't see much. I've had a few days like that. Very
disorientating. I could just about see the pupil in front of me, occasionally, and that was my marker. But I was like, oh, okay, that was one thing. And the other time, I didn't even realize
you knew to ski, actually.
Yeah, I've done 5 ski trips.
Okay, so, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's but going skiing on a school ski trip is so tiring.
It must be. I mean, it was tiring just skiing with my nieces. And we had a change compared to last year. This is just logistics, but I don't know how interesting it is to you or anybody else, but it doesn't really matter. We're just chatting. We had to, last year, their classes were in the morning.
Okay.
And this year they were in the afternoon in a different location. And because Anaï was doing snowboarding and didn't know how to do snowboarding in the beginning, she was skiing with us in the morning, and then we had to go back and change and go to the other lesson. So it changed the whole rhythm of the week. And it was just a little bit, I mean, we made it work, but it was very different. Normally, like last year, we would take sandwiches, go ski in the morning, drop them off they would drop them off to their classes, go picnic, and then keep skiing in the afternoon. Now, also, to be fair, the weather wasn't that great, and it was quite cold on several days, so it wasn't great for picnicking anyway. But anyway, it changed the rhythm, and also made it that they were tired in the afternoon. We finished the days a little bit later. It was just different. Not what I'm used to. I'm used to trying to get out as early as possible and ski as much as possible. And when I'm done for the day, I'm done for the day. If I'm done a little bit early compared to what the time of the lifts closed, then great. Yeah. And so that was a lot of fun. And and I thought that it's difficult to do anything else but skiing when you're in a small little apartment,
Yeah.
taking care of two kids.
Yeah.
Even they're big, they don't need a lot of caring, but still, the day out, your wipes, cooking, grabbing a beer or a glass of wine with my brother and hanging out just a tiny bit, watching a movie or playing a board game, and then we're done for the day and start over again.
It does sound very similar to a ski trip.
Yeah, it is. It is a ski
It's
trip.
very similar.
It's fantastic, but it's actually surprisingly difficult when you full on into it to do anything else. It's very what I also love about going off skiing is that it's all encompassing. There's nothing else going on. It's really difficult to keep track and do anything else. And you've paid a fortune to get up on the mountain. It doesn't happen very often, and I want to make it count and make the most of it. And so it's very easy, and it's part of the pleasure also to just completely forget about anything to do with the rest of your life.
That's true. That is really true, but it's physically really demanding too.
Oh yeah, it is.
How you...
I'm really happy I exercised a lot beforehand.
Oh yeah,
it's funny because I was talking to another friend who took up a little skiing, and he went skiing the week before I did. And he said him and his wife and him were exhausted, like they could not keep going, and had really, I think they were hurting, their calves were hurting, or other parts of their legs. I can't remember which parts. But my point I was like, I'm not sure, because I'm tired, but I'm not wrecked at the end of a ski day. And my suspicion was that they're not in the right posture.
Yeah, it must be.
They're not in the right posture, and if you're afraid, and if you're not in the right posture, you're tense and how do you say tense? And I was going to say I don't know, knotted, tense. You're not, you're
not relaxed.
You're not relaxed. You have to be kind of relaxed. So it can be very, very exhausting, but it depends. So anyhow, there was no trains to get there, so I had to get on the night bus, which I was not super happy about. I have not done that in a while, and I'm too old for this stuff. Although there were a lot of other people that were older than me on the night bus, but it is the cheapest and most direct way to get there.
Okay.
But on the plus side, I was able to get the keys to the apartment early, and luckily the person before us in the apartment, in the rental, left on the Friday night, so I could get the keys straight up when I arrived, which was fantastic. And started getting stuff ready because Morgan was going to be driving, and so we said that I was going to cook for the meal, and so I started getting a sauce ready and stuff. And then I thought, well, wait a minute, it's changeover day from week to week, so Saturday is usually quiet on the ski slopes. And so the big advantage is I was able to go ski for a few hours, and I have all my gear. So I was like,
nice.
You know what? It's expensive, but screw it. I'm here. I'm just going to go. There was nobody there. So I was able to, on the first day, get my ski legs back a bit, which was great. And so it was a week there. And so in the few weeks before, I was permutating. I was like looking at finances, whether I could afford to go away for another week, etc. And I was like, I shouldn't. Then I got another gig from a client. So.
Oh, okay, cool.
Well, yes, but it made me confident. But now that I'm back, I'm like, well, I probably shouldn't have done that. But anyway, financially, I shouldn't have done that. Ski-wise, totally should have done that. So my girlfriend was going to Venice for work, and it was the same weekend I was finishing skiing in Vars. And she works with in PR and communications with luxury hotels and travel.
Oh wow!
Etc. So she was invited by one of her clients to go experience the new season of the Venice Simplon Orient Express train, which is a retrofitted, beautiful carriages from the 19th century, super luxury experience, which sounded super cool. I wanted to go, but she was like, "Well, why don't you come and join me in Venice?" And I knew from last year that there was a bus connection from the resort where I was, which is not far from the Italian border, to take you across the border to a train. The train would take you back to Paris.
Yeah.
But I was like, well, if I'm in an Italian train station, there must be a train going somewhere else.
Exactly.
So I looked at the Italian train timetables, and I figured that I could actually go all the way to Venice, and arrive just an hour after she did. or an hour and a half or something like that. And so I took the train. I lugged around my giant ski bag, which looks like a corpse bag because it's basically my size.
It does, yeah.
It's 6 feet long, like 1 meter 85 long, and it's just two things, like super heavy with two wheels at the end. And I lugged that through the streets of Venice. I hadn't accounted for the fact that you have to go up steps and down steps to cross all the canal bridges.
Oh my god!
On a Saturday night at 8:30 p.m. and I made so much noise because I was looking at everything and I was like, yeah, there's a Vaporetto, but I have to walk to the Vaporetto and then I have to walk another 10-12 minutes, or I can walk 20 minutes and just go straight to the hotel. And when I saw that the Vaporetto was $9.50, I was like, fuck it, sorry, I apologize. Mind my words, but nobody's listening. I'll just keep the $9.50 and have some wine or something with it. Huh?
What's the Vaporetto?
Oh, sorry, the Vaporetto is the public transportation system.
Oh, I see. Okay, right. Okay, I'm with you, yeah.
They're bus boats.
Yeah.
Have you been to Venice?
No,
I've never been. And even more so, this was really the first significant, serious Italian city I visited altogether. I've been wanting to go to Italy for years, and I had only ever crossed the border in the mountains, like one on a mountain trip, road trip in 2018. But before 2018, I had never crossed into Italy. And last year, literally, just going to that train station, which is just 30 minutes across the border. And so we had a couple of days of a lot of fun in Venice. So gorgeous. And it was just a week or two after the carnival, so it's apparently one of the best times to go because it's very quiet, low season.
Yeah.
And honestly, there were so many people around the tourist areas that it was like, wow, this is low season. I don't want to see this place, but it's high season. This is a lot of people. But it's such a weird place. It's gorgeous, really beautiful. I had a beautiful
I had no
day.
idea you had done so much stuff.
Well, I'm not done with the planning of the trip. So this is a few weeks before I said, yeah, I can totally come to Venice. Okay, great. The train doesn't cost a lot of money. I think it cost me 40 euros to go to Venice.
Wow.
Yeah. So, I mean, everything in Venice is a lot more expensive, but to get there was not expensive.
Yeah.
And it was a few hours of train and crossing the Alps and Italian countryside, changing in Bologna. It was great. But a few weeks before, when I was looking at it, and Katie, my girlfriend, says, well, maybe you can keep skiing after that. I'm like, what? No, this is not reasonable. I'll come back with you. And I was looking at the flights back and thinking, oh, the flight's going to be complicated. I have to carry my bag. It's going to be extra luggage. And then that night, it was probably just after we talked, like a month and a bit ago, a little maybe before, I can't remember, because I planned this just a bit last minute. And just before I was going to bed, and I had a thought going, well, wait a minute, there's mountains right there as well. Oh, I know, because I was reading a book, a travel report called I mentioned this.
Is this the ski guy?
Yeah, the ski guy.
yeah, you did. You talked about it.
Yeah. And so I was reading this, and I went back to the beginning of the book where there's the map of the Alps.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wait a minute, but Venice, the Alps, just right there. And there's the Dolomites, and I've heard about. I was like, Dolomites. I've heard Dolomites. Dolomites is a keyword. It's a significant thing. Some people have talked about this place. Did I talk about this already last time?
No.
Okay, good.
No, that's all. I have no idea.
All right, so I put my book down and I'm like, wait a minute, what's the mountains just like? And I look and I'm like, oh, it's just right there, north of Venice, just right there. And I look online, I'm like, oh, what's the ski resort? What's the deal? And I just land on the website called Dolomiti Super Ski. And Dolomiti Super Ski is marketed as the largest ski area in the world by surface.
Okay.
And of course that catches my interest. I'm like, oh, all right, I have to look this closer. What's going on? And then you scratch the surface. I go into the website, start looking.
Oh no.
And then I'm immediately confused because I'm like, well, wait a minute. They just marketed this as the largest ski area in the world, but actually it's not one ski area, it's 36.
Oh,
Where are they? Are they connected? What's going on? Because it turned out that the marketing tagline, which is also fascinating from a communication
of
perspective, because I
course.
was
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
of
yeah.
course they're lying. That's not what it is.
Yeah.
This is something like it's the largest surface of, but it's a umbrella brand for tons of ski areas in ski resorts in a large vast area that are most of them unconnected.
Oh, right.
And so immediately, and the map was not very clear. So that just raised all my bells on like, this is a puzzle challenge. I need to understand this place. What's going on? What are these areas? How big are they? Which ones of them are connected or not? How does that relate to bus and train routes to Venice? How much does that cost? Do any of these places have budget accommodation, et cetera, et cetera? So I just didn't, I went to bed really late. I got stuck on that for an hour and a half. And of course, then it was in my head. I was like, maybe I can go ski from Venice. And I ended up after a lot of, and of course, reading stuff about this is some of the most gorgeous, amazing vistas of skiing in the world.
Oh
You
my
have to
God.
go once in your life.
Yeah.
And yeah, I got completely stuck for a few days on looking at that whole thing. And found out that there is one of the towns, which is one of the famous one called Cortina d'Ampezzo, that has quite a large ski area connected to a few others and hosted it's a very traditionally known luxury mountain area in Italy, like Chamonix, kind of their
Okay.
Chamonix sort of thing, or Megève, and hosted the 1956 Winter Olympics and is hosting the next Winter Olympics. So they're in the
So
midst
they're
of
gearing
changing
up.
and
Yeah.
upgrading a bunch of their facilities. And there's a direct bus that goes from Venice and costs 18 euros. And a single room available at the only budget enough hotel in the center of town. And all the other resorts were stupid expensive, didn't have any spots, were difficult to reach, etc. So, and even I say this quickly because I spent hours trying to find how all the others were connected, what was the best place to go. I watched reviews. The following morning, I spent time watching ski resort reviews on YouTube. So that's what I do. And and the Dolomites are gorgeous. It's really big, impressive, craggy, rocky, canyon-like formations that feel like you're in the western, like you're in Utah somewhere. It's amazing, gorgeous. And Katie had told me she wanted to go hike there in the summer. It'd be a cool place to go hike in the summer, I'm sure. And so I started organizing. And then as I was looking at everything, I started going, well, you're also not far from Austria at that point, because
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
really
Yep.
in the Sud Tyrol and the north of Italy, in a part where apparently they talk a mixture of Austro-German and
But
some
see,
Italian bits.
that's where I've skied. We used to go to Austria right on that border, and it was, you look, the first time I went to the top of the mountain, I was like, oh
Yeah.
wow.
Where'd you go
Over
ski
there
over
is
there?
Italy. Over there is like, I was like, wow. I can't remember the name of the place.
St. Anton, Lesh, Kitzbühel. Anyhow,
I don't know. I just
okay.
that's the thing, because it was a school ski trip.
Yeah.
It was all, I let everyone else handle it, and then I was there to annoy / discipline / entertain the pupils
It must be
on
so
a
much work to go on a trip like that with a lot of pupils.
24 hours on a coach
Yeah.
trip.
That's also something that you'd love to do with kids.
I learned so much about groups and entertaining and being in front of a crowd and crowd control and all.
How
I
many
learned
kids?
so much, like
A
about
bus full?
50.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
That's how I
just,
learned skiing. I went on a school trip.
well, that's what I was gonna ask you how you learned. That's how I learned. I got some instruction, and I'm a lot. The thing is, I'm in a lot better shape since I went skiing, but I'm just older.
Well, as you know,
So
I'm trying to recruit friends and convert them. I've pretty much converted my brother, who's now starting to get as obsessed as I am. It's a completely ridiculous activity. It's
It,
really, really
it,
silly.
it is complete. I've never tried snowboarding.
I
I
think you'd
think
like it.
I think I'd like it.
Do
The
you, but you used to skateboard, right?
yeah,
Yeah, so
skateboard.
that makes sense.
And I'm planning on restarting skate. My skateboard's right here. I'm planning on starting again. But there's always that as you get older, there's that little bit of like I could totally mess up my wrists and ankles and knees and back and head. And I'm like, well so when you went to LA, there was skateboarders around, and they were my age.
Yeah.
They were like from the original generation of skateboarders, 20, 30 years, 40 years ago. So I'm going to start skateboarding again.
It's funny because I've been meaning to, and I only did it once and I hurt myself and I haven't, and then since then it's become something I've been meaning to and I haven't done again, to rollerblade and take lessons.
Yeah.
But the idea of being on street asphalts is a lot, I find it scarier than skiing, even though I quite often ski on not that much snow, particularly this season because there's not a lot of snow in the Alps, and you're going a lot faster and you could hurt yourself a lot more. But I feel the slope and the snow, I don't know, actually I don't know why I'm not afraid, because you're gliding on snow. I don't know why. It doesn't feel like it's an urban and hard environment, even though if you're fall at high speed you would be. I'm not sure. I think I just need to take lessons properly.
So you went skiing.
So the end bit. So I went skiing. Spent 2 days in Venice, which was fantastic, or a day and a half. It was amazing, which we can go in details. Then took the bus at the airport, and Katie went back to Paris. I went to Cortina and spent 3 nights, 2 days skiing in Cortina d'Ampezzo, which was fantastic. The first day was a bit of a whiteout. The second day mix. I can talk more about it. Then I got up, I took a little local bus, paid €2.50 to take me to an Italian train station close to the border, and took a train across Italy and Austria to Innsbruck. And Innsbruck is a gorgeous little town. I had never thought about it. It's a really beautiful spot, surrounded by the Alps. And there's a bunch of ski resorts in reach of the public transportation system. And it's a university town. It's got quite a young, and it's got a history. And there was a hostel I could stay at that was affordable. Hostels are getting crazy expensive, but it was pretty cool. And stayed a few nights there. I ended up skiing. I thought I was going to ski 3 days, but I had hurt myself a tiny bit. The public transportation had a long range and it was quite far. So anyway, long story short, I skied just 2 days, which was awesome. And the third day I had a day of rest, and that's what I got you on the phone briefly. And I talked to somebody at the hostel who recommended going to the sauna. I was like, great, I'll just wander and go to the sauna, which was cool. And then took the train very early on Monday to go to St. Anton, which is a super famous resort, very expensive. And I took 1 night there and I skied that. And I was supposed to ski on Tuesday, but my train, I had a train from St. Anton to Zurich and then Zurich to Paris. My Zurich to Paris was canceled because of the strikes. Long story short, I was looking at travel permutations early on Monday morning, and then at the end of the day I thought, okay, well, actually the easiest is going to be just to cash in some miles and take a flight back and not ski the following day and get back home to be with Katie, basically.
So I tease you about being an international man of mystery. How you just you just ski all over like.
So that my take on it was I wanted to ski more, but I skied less, but made up with it in terms of variety of trip and terrain.
Yeah. You do also realize
I counted. I skied. So I learned, as I said, I learned on a school trip when I was like 9 or 10, 10 probably, and then I didn't ski for most of my life, and I relearned with a friend in common, a common friend in 2016. 2016 2017, that was New Year's, and since I went skiing in 34 or 35 different mountain resorts in 6 countries, and I have to count the number of ski days I've done a lot.
So okay, here's my point. given that this is creative sessions, you have so much, so many, so such a range of things to call on that you could write about.
That's true. That's true.
It's ridiculous. It's so you could, and of course, it's, you know, I've skied, and you can use skiing as a great metaphor for so many different things. You can just wedge it in. And you were reading that ski travel book where he talks about, I mean, oh, you said he was like amazingly trained language guy and would write in this amazing kind of style or whatever.
Yeah.
But you have so much to write about.
Yes, it's true.
There's so many things you can write about. And you can go in any direction. It could just be a straight kind of travel log, but it could also be something about the different. I mean, you talked about the website and from a communications point of view about how they market themselves. Like, there's so many different things you could write about. My
That's
God.
true. I just have to sit down and write.
Bird by bird, slope by slope, ski resort by ski resort. It's just so much you could write, and I think it'd be really entertaining. I don't know what the overarching. So I always thought about writing a book, and I thought, I can't be asked. There's too many. I don't know what I'd write, and then I thought, well, I could just write a series of short stories, and let the reader figure out how they all interlink, because they would link a bit like an anthology series of, like, you know, Black Mirror or Tales of the Unexpected or something like that.
Yeah, you have to write one to begin with.
And I've got about 3 that I've written, but the thing that seems to interconnect them is there's some kind of commentary or some underlying story about and tension about not fitting in. Everything I write has something that relates to that on some level somewhere. It's or some kind of different perspective on something. Everything I write seems to be like that, which of course is just what she says in Bird by Bird about writing about your own experience. If it's not, it comes back to your view and the lens through which you see everything.
Yeah.
That's as far as I got. And then I've also got, because I play guitar, I've been playing every day this year, some little tiny bit of guitar, and the strength in my fingers, but also the creativity. I've got every Friday I put together something, a chord progression, a riff, something or whatever, and I've got all these ideas. And then I can't remember if I told you this, but a couple of months ago, it was a while ago, a pupil challenged me to write a song for some literacy awareness thing. And I wrote a song. I had one of my ideas. In about 20 minutes, I had a song. I performed it at school, and the English teacher looked at the lyrics. And again, similar themes running through my songs about looking on the outside, observing, not fitting in, all of that kind of atmosphere. And I've definitely got a kind of style to all my ideas and the way I write. And then I was listening to the Pixies, thinking, I'm going to write a song. I want to write a song that sounds like the Pixies, but isn't obviously a Pixies song. Really difficult because the Pixies are so good. They're so good. So it's, yeah, I think we're both very creative, but come at it in very different ways. You've got so much material. I think you need to be writing. It's almost a crime that you're not writing.
Probably is. I mean, yes, sure. Yeah. And the last day I challenged myself. I did a lot of really good. I did tough slopes because the Dolomites are really steep. And I did black runs pretty well. I mean, not the best skiing, not necessarily super fast, but good enough. And in Austria, I discovered that they have this cool thing that they call ski routes that are signposted off-piste markers.
Oh, okay.
So it's between and off-piste, but you have just little markers, and there's a difficult and expert level. And in St. Anton on Monday, the weather was clearing up and good enough, but it was warm very quickly, and the snow was super heavy. There's a lot of reports of avalanches at the moment.
Oh,
I think for that reason, because they suddenly had a lot of late snow and it's really warm and heavy, so it's just kind of toppling over. But I went on this route and I realized in the middle of it, after I started, that it was an expert level one. But I could see everything. There was like a passage, and I did it, and I kept falling over because it was really deep snow, and I was skiing so bad and I was sweating so much. And I had several funny conversations with other people and with myself and taking videos because navigating the amount of snow was difficult. And I was like, and there was like bits that were really, really steep with a few other people that were stuck for a while. So it was not like zipping through. It was just going like this slowly.
Yeah.
And that was also back to the same coaching that I had given my niece when she was stuck, which was okay. But I was in nice conditions insofar as good weather, etc. But really steep and going, okay. Take one turn, got to ski, take a turn, one turn, okay, one more turn, because that's all it is. Skiing is a succession.
I remember. It's the only way down.
And then I had a funny conversation with two German or Austrian people who were like, no, like, yeah, I think I'm skiing like a potato. That's my usual go-to analogy, skiing like a potato. And she's like, no, it's not you. The snow is super heavy, like cementy. And the other guy's like, yeah, look, it's like sushi rice, sticky rice. Look, you just bunch it up, it stays and it sticks to your ski. It's really difficult to ski in. And that was at 11 a.m. and it was already getting softer. And already by 1 p.m., I could feel the snow getting softer by like just 10 a.m. already because of the temperature.
Yeah.
And by 1 p.m., perhaps, there's so many people in that resort. It's a nice place, but it's big. There's a lot of people compared to the smaller resorts I was in. So there's also an interesting one. Is it better to ski in a smaller resort, but with less people, or in a bigger one, but like with huge crowds?
Wow.
And so everything was snowed out and moguled, big bumps everywhere. So I kept skiing in that, and that was a serious workout. That I could feel my legs throughout the day.
Moguls,
and it was all soft ones. No, it's like soft, just bunched up, and that was a lot of exercising, big time. It was warm, but I was pretty proud of myself for having done like one expert level ski route.
Yeah,
even though I didn't ski it very well or anything. And also to know that I can go on pretty much any kind of terrain and ski it, not necessarily ski it very well, but I can get down. And including getting into a bit of off-piste as well. So yeah, I think next year I want to do more, and I want to take a more like expert lessons to get better with really steep and off-piste type stuff.
We had snow here.
You did?
Yeah.
It's raining here. It's hot. It's super warm. It's like it's springtime. It's very warm.
It's been really cold here, and we had snow, and then it all disappeared, and it's been cold and then warm, and then it's kind of, it doesn't feel like it's warm as it should be. The rain, of course, but I'm just listening to you. I'm remembering all these different my experiences on the ski slope, on the ski trips.
I don't get bored of it. I do get tired, and you got to be a little bit careful with that, of course. And it is very expensive. That's why it's a silly activity. It takes an enormous amount of effort, enormous amount of time, enormous amount of material and money, and it's dangerous. It's a completely ridiculous activity, but I really love it. And somebody asked me, I was at Stubai Glacier, and really great day. The snow was gorgeous. It was really high up in altitude. Beautiful resort. And I met this guy on the lifts. And it's funny because in the US, it's very interesting to compare skiing cultures between North America and Europe is very different. And Austria, I discovered, is very, very serious about their après ski drinks that start at 10 a.m. really.
Okay.
It was at Exeter, there was a day it was white out, you couldn't see anything. And I was at 10 a.m. There was still already a lot of people with beer and schnapps. And I was like, wow, it's a Saturday. Locals, I think, they're also tourists, and the music like from 12 in the après ski tents.
Is it like stupid pop, Euro pop?
It's like Tyrolean German songs mixed in with Eurodance.
Oh, oh
It's
God,
amazing.
yeah, I know what you
And
mean. It's so
extremely loud, like
yeah,
really, really, really loud.
it's horrible.
And it's not my thing. I took several videos because literally there was this tent, I could hear how loud it was. And when you open the door, just the volume
Yeah,
difference was just amazing. And anyway, I was like, at some point in the afternoon, I was thinking, oh, maybe I'll have a nice beer, a nice Austrian beer, and enjoy the mountain scenery or whatever. But like, no, I couldn't. I'm not going to have a drink there. It doesn't sound appealing to me at all.
So what's North America like versus Europe?
So the one thing I was going to mention was what had happened with that guy on the lift, which is in North America, everybody chats on the lifts.
Yeah,
And everybody asks you questions and you have a
yeah,
conversation with random
yeah,
people. It's kind of interesting.
yeah,
In Europe, just people don't talk. It's like public transportation. You
yeah.
don't chat. But this one guy, we're just the two of us on a lift, asked me, oh, so why do you ski? Which was, I was like, wow,
That's a great question. Yeah.
And
Where was he from?
He was from
he local? He wasn't
Romania.
local. Okay.
Romania. And he said he hadn't taken a holiday in like 4 or 5 years, has multiple businesses, used to work for Google for a long time, and now he set up his own software business or something along those lines.
What a great guy to meet. What a great question.
And he said normally he does ski touring, like the Alpen guy that and like something I'd love to do someday. And there's a bunch of people doing it in resort or in Austria, which is ski hiking. It's like you go ski up the mountain, then you ski down, basically.
Serious workout.
And he was on holidays with a friend and really enjoying it. And he said, yeah, so why do you ski? So I thought, oh, well, that's a great question. It's really difficult to answer that, because I'm like, why am I putting so much time and effort into this? And it's not the first time I thought about it, of course.
But to be asked it on a ski lift, it's a great question. What a great question.
But I thought, okay, well, what I really love, I think, is, well, I love the environment. I love how all-encompassing it is, like we talked about earlier.
Yeah, yeah.
I love that it's an activity that there's a lot of technique and a lot of stuff to learn. And at the same time, if you try to control it all, it doesn't work. So it's an activity where there has to be as much of learning and controlling and mastering as there is of letting go and going with the flow.
Yeah. No,
and you always have to find this balance between the two of those things. And depending on the situation, there's more. And it's every time is different. The slope is different. The weather's different. The quality of the snow is different. How you ski is different. How you're feeling is different. And you still have to find this balance. And when you find it, it's so great. You're just gliding along, and it's magical. I find it amazing. But I find it equally amazing the couple of runs I've had in the Dolomites where there was almost nobody there, and I was zipping and going super fast down and really enjoying very wide and pleasurable turns on a firm but not icy and good compact snow, as I was struggling and sweating through trying to make every turn count. And that didn't feel like gliding whatsoever. That was hard work. And I was reaching my physical limits. I think more my ability limits or physical limits, because there were other people that were gliding through, but I was like, I don't have the physical ability, confidence, or whatever to zip through the super heavy snow that is extremely steep. Other people are like, I'm struggling through every turn, but still enjoying it massively. So I really like that balance. And I mentioned at the beginning of the episode in the description, Alan Watts, and I think I mentioned, I can't remember if I mentioned on the call, but I'm sure I told you that my meditation app, the Sam Harris Waking Up, has collaborated with the estate of Alan Watts, and there's the full collection.
Oh, no, you didn't tell me that.
Wow, I'm sure I told you. There's a lot of audio. You told me
you've been listening to Alan Watts, but that's almost the reason for me to jump from my current meditation app to
it's the amount of there's so much. And so I've started listening enough that it starts to be repetitive, but not in a bad way necessarily. It's just that you don't necessarily, I've listened several hours on, and it's a great to listen to Alan Watts talks while in trains admiring the mountains is pretty cool. It's a good place.
It is, yeah.
But there's and I realized there's so much that we've heard in other courses, such as Landmark or other coaching courses, that comes from him, or that not necessarily comes from him, but he says where it comes from of other people.
He's channeled it. Yeah. What's
so
the phrase? He's curated
Alan Watts
it,
Connection has 19 different series that they've organized thematically, and each one has 6 to 10 sessions of like anywhere from 30 minutes to 2 hours. So one is called the Tao of Philosophy, Philosophies of Asia. I started listening to that one. Myth and Religion, Philosophy and Society. I've listened to all of those. Comparative Philosophy, Ways of Liberation, Religion of No Religion, Eastern, Western Zen, Taoism, Zen and Meditation. Even just the work of categorizing all the talks was a lot of work. But when you start listening to a lot of them, of course, which makes sense, he's repeating, he repeats, he's using the same type of stuff. It's just different moments, different talks. They just categorized all of that. And there's some really, really good ones, There's I'm not going to do it justice, but there's a point where he's having a conversation with a few people and there's questions in the audience in his seminar or talk. And he's talking about the universe and the finding a purpose kind of thing. And somebody's asking, or he's commenting on a hypothetical finding a purpose. I can't remember. And he's like, well, we always feel like there's something somewhere to get to. And somebody asks a question, and something along the lines of like, but isn't it all going in circles? And he's like, well, take a look at the stars and the universe. That's all the planets are doing, going around in circles. It's like there's probably something to do with the nature of the universe. And he's laughing, and he's very light in everything he's talking about. He's got so many great, fantastic examples, and the way he speaks like a book is awesome. He's always, and it seems like it's mostly off the cuff, and I think it mostly is. I don't know, but. And he's got so many references that he's quoting all the time from the Bible, from different Zen books, from.
Wow.
It's really good. It's really, 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 really good. Really good.
And is that like
he's very non-dogmatic, which I really love.
Yeah, well. I like that idea too.
He's at some point he has an example which I really loved about. Again, I'm not going to do it justice, but he's talking about he's talking about competing ideals and competing philosophies of how to get to self-realization, whether you call it nirvana, satori, some kind of religious epiphany, or just like full awareness. He's like, whatever the way is fine. It's all good to me. And he's like, and trying to say that there's one way and not the other ways is like a ferryman who's like, charging you to cross the river. And then another ferryman like sets up a little bit further down the river and is also charging, but he doesn't like the fact that he's got competition. So he goes to get a license from the government or some kind of official paperwork to say, I'm the only one officially licensed to take you across the river. And he says, well, let as many people who want to be ferrymen operate the boats to get you to self-realizations. And he's like, ultimately, it's down to you to figure out whether you're on the right boat and whether it's sinking or not.
So good.
It was really great. And then he, I think it was around the same kind of talk, but I can't remember because I listened to a bunch of them. But he talks about a fun example. He's like, well, and people in the East or in our can be equally tense, because it's just a human thing to be thinking that you found the right answer.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm, people don't like me because they find me preaching, but I'm like, well, whatever works for you. Learn from anything and everybody. It doesn't matter. And he says, I was wandering in Bangkok in a monastery and looking at their like bookstore section, and he's looking at a book and he's the title is about a certain type of meditation. I can't remember the name right now. He says, I was humming to myself and looking. He says, oh, this type of meditation. And then a monk comes to him in there's saffron robes and says, oh, do you know this type of meditation? He's like, yeah, it's kind of similar and related to Zen, isn't it? And the monk goes, no, this one's not Zen, not the same. He's like, well, I think it was created around the same time. It's got these ideas. Seems similar. No, okay, no, very different. Completely not the same thing. So yeah, it's really great. He's profound and very interesting. Very good guy.
There's
A
gold
lot of great
everywhere. You gotta look for it. And are they like, could you listen to them as like podcasts? Is that kind of the kind of,
Yeah,
or is
that's
it
what it is.
that is, oh, okay, cool.
They're most
Wow.
of them recordings from seminars, meditations, talks. So after listening to a few, you realize that there's been a big work of trying to organize them under themes.
Yeah.
But if you listen to too many, or I mean too many, quote, then he's circling around the same kinds of ideas. But I don't know. Now I'm kind of slightly curious about where he was invited to talk, but it seems like it just didn't matter. He talked to a bunch of people about a bunch of stuff. But it's equally interesting to hear some of the questions and answers and think, wow, this was in the 60s, 70s.
Yeah, it's a long time ago.
And the people had the same kind of concerns and questions they would have now in the same kind of audience.
Yeah.
Pretty much. You might add like some more concerns today about what the effects of a phone and social media are, but otherwise they had other effects and concerns about TV or phones, whatever. But generally about, how to be happy, and
the human
it's
condition.
really good.
And that it's waking up, isn't it? Is that what it's called?
Mm-hmm. The app, yeah. And there's so much theory stuff that I don't listen to but not because I don't want to, it's just because so there's the series. So he has the Alan Watts Connection is one of the biggest that was added. Then there's multiple other series by Sam Harris has a bunch of them, but there's a couple of other meditation teachers. So the Joseph Goldstein is one of them. And there's the conversations, which are podcasts, interviews with people who work around meditation, so there's swamis and monks and therapists and all sorts of stuff. And then there's Q&As, and he's got a bunch of Q&As with all sorts of people. So what's interesting also is, and even the meditation sessions, the day-to-day meditations are Sam Harris, but there's a bunch of other series by other people with other ways of doing meditation.
I've been using the Calm app for a few years, and I was using Headspace before that. And I don't think I told you how I've started meditating.
I just realized there's a whole section. Sorry, I wasn't listening. There's a whole section I didn't even know was there. There's a whole section called Wisdom for a More Examined and Fulfilling Life. And there's 10 sessions by somebody about the cloud of unknowing, mindful CBT, philosophy for troubled times, time management for mortals, the Stoic path.
That sounds like.
And this is all stuff I didn't even realize was there. All right. Well, there's tons in this app. It's crazy.
I'm going to have a look.
It's a huge amount of value. I like it a lot. It's really well created. There's really good stuff in there.
You've talked about it a lot. And I think that Calm's a great app, and I've stuck with it. And I was Headspace before that. But I started meditating first thing in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
And, just after I wake up, it sets me up for the day in a way that I'm really surprised at the difference it's made to me.
Yeah.
Really, really, really surprised. So, and Calm is great, but it feels a bit new agery. There's lots of people.
That's what I didn't like about it. I only tried it briefly, and I tried Headspace briefly. And I like Sam Harris, but I also really like that it feels very well curated by seriously good meditation teachers who have a lot to say.
But it also, he comes at it from a bit of the Western trying to understand neuroscience point of view too, doesn't he?
Well, in the talks, Q&As, etc., perhaps, but in the meditation is just meditation. But he mixes in a lot of different, in the day-to-day sessions, he mixes a bunch of different approaches. So from one day to the next, the day-to-day, you should try it. I'll give you the link for 3 or 30 days. I'm sure it did before. I'll give you another. You
might have this hidden away. No, but how much is it per year? It's not that much, is it?
Well, I can't remember because I managed to I signed up at the very beginning, and I have a half price forever deal. So I think mine is 60. It must be $60 for the year, but I think the normal price is double. So it must be $10 a month, more or less.
Okay. Yeah, I'm looking for something to just shift and I'm gonna try something else. And Calm is great. And there's a couple of things on there that I really like. There's some movement stuff on there as well, which I haven't tried. But the meditating in the morning is making a really big difference to me and
I
the rest
start
of
the
the
day with
day.
it. I like that as well.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
usually meditate in the morning and journal at the end of the day.
yeah, me too.
Yeah, sometimes it goes out the window, like last night. I don't think or I have to check whether I did or not, but I don't think I did.
But when are you writing when you journal? You're typing.
Typing or thumbing.
I prefer writing.
I know
I
we
do.
talked about this a bunch of times, and I still
Oh,
have
do we?
a
Oh, I don't
brand
remember.
new and unused James Clear journal and a mostly unused mind journal
Yeah, there's something.
that I thought I would buy after listening to you, and I was like, I'll try them. And I think the last entry in the mind journal that I filled, I must have had 3 entries in there. It's from May 2021.
There's something for me very ritualistic about physically writing it with the specific pen and the like.
Which I totally understand,
I
but
like.
I mean, even though I mostly at home, but you have a very orderly. I mean, this could sound horrible, so I'm not going to say that. It's
Ordered.
true though. Well,
It's true.
I don't have the same schedule all the time at all, so I
Well,
do
I
have
mean,
some routines, but
it's the thing is, it's because of my job, right? So I'm a teacher. Everything like,
yeah.
but in the holidays, my going to the toilet routine changes, but I get trained at school. The bell goes. I'm a good lab rat. I go to the toilet. I get a drink. I go back to teach. The bell goes. Like that's how my life is.
Yeah, whereas I don't know what my schedule is like for the coming week. Although I do know that I have a coffee call tomorrow morning at 9. And then I'm hoping that some of the clients who wanted something urgently are signing my quote so I can get on with the work and earn some money, extra money this month. That would be good. Or early next month. But yeah, my schedule is changing all the time. But even though most of the time I know what's going on and I have very open and wide schedule it takes me a few days anyway to recover from this type of trip that I just did. To get back and get your bearings again.
Yeah. Well, that's why I like journaling. I think journaling helps me do that. Journaling helps me get back to kind of
And
recenter
I
myself.
like the idea of writing it, but I don't.
Now,
Yeah.
part of the problem with writing it is that my writing is terrible and I can't
Oh,
always
my
read.
writing is even worse than yours. I think it's horrible.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know. But it works for me, and I really appreciate these conversations because of the sheer range of exploration and thinking and new ideas that I get. So I'm going to go download Waking Up, and
Have you
I'll
played any more video
look
games?
back. I'm sure it's on my WhatsApp. Okay. Hey,
Oh,
yeah, I was going to.
you just stuck. You just froze for a while. You're still frozen on video. Oh, you're back. No.
Am I? No,
Yeah, you're
am I
back.
back? Okay, all right.
What were you saying?
Right. I'm really, really enjoying Dead Cells, and I'm on level 2 now. I've got through to level 2, whatever it's called. He's out of prison, and he's in some place with loads of flying bats, and I have to like get rid of them. I've gradually figured out about the cells and upgrading weapons, and like occasionally speed running it just to get through it, and other times like taking time to explore everything and all of
You
that.
only got to the second area.
Yeah,
I mean,
because
I still
I haven't
haven't
played
finished the
much.
game, but okay, fine.
I'm not playing that much at a time, but like it is like settling down. I'm just like, oh, I can play this.
It's cool, right?
It's because at first I felt like I was going around in circles and not moving forward, and then suddenly there was like a jump. I was like, oh, I really get this now. The whole thing is so cleverly
It's
designed.
really well done. I still haven't finished it, by the way, but my brother just told me he finished it, which I was really jealous. He finished it, but he hasn't gone to all the available areas. He went to the end.
Yeah.
And I just started a new game called Triangle Strategy this week that I bought, like I found secondhand a month or 2 ago. I can't remember.
There's a new Bomberman coming out.
Oh, wow.
I
that used to
want to
drive me
get.
nuts. My
I
other
love that
friend
game.
James, who's in Hong Kong, was a big fan of it, but he
I
would
love it.
destroy us all the time. But you have to play 4 players for that to be really interesting.
Yeah, yeah, and most of the gaming that I tend to do is social gaming anyway with family, with
I
three
always like the
generations.
idea, but I still actually that's one thing I want to do. I said at the beginning of the year I wanted to host a game night, as in video game night, to have 4 people play Mario Kart, etc., on my screen, and I still haven't managed to do that. So just have to find a
We haven't
couple
got
of
Mario
people.
Kart. We'll probably buy Mario Kart at some point.
Should, yeah, it's so good.
Yeah, no, and we played it a lot on the Switch, and I played a lot on the Switch. No, sorry, not Switch, the Wii before that.
Hmm.
But I do love that game, and I love the idea of like playing games with other people.
Yeah,
Bomberman, I think, is awesome. I love
yeah.
that game so much.
And books wise, I read a tiny bit of The Adventures of Tom Sawyer, because why not?
Yep, because
I thought I wanted to. I downloaded a few books on Project Gutenberg, the free repository of free copyright books, ebooks, and I thought, oh, Mark Twain is a reference, so like, well, maybe that's going to be my classical, and so starting something while I was on holiday, very easy. I haven't really progressed with the History of Debt book by David Graeber, and I have, because I got it on pre-order immediately as soon as I received the email, which I think I sent you the link about Wait But Wise book, and apparently it's awesome, but I haven't read it yet. I haven't started it.
He has a
It's
book.
out.
Oh,
Yeah.
I wanted to start reading that data search one. I can't remember if I haven't got it yet. I want to buy it.
Oh, that's really good. Everybody Lies.
Is that what it's called? Okay,
Mhm.
you sent me. I think you sent me a link to it. I finished. Did I tell you I read the book on which Die Hard is based?
I think you did, yes, but I can't remember now.
So it's such a great read.
Was it entertaining? Yeah.
It's really good, really entertaining. The film does a very good job of capturing the feel of the book, but it changes a few things. The book is a bit more of a political commentary because it was written, I think, at the late end of the 80s. No, maybe earlier than that. It was written a long time ago, but it's really good. Really, really
Talking
good
about
book.
politics, it was interesting to come back to Paris on Tuesday night to the massive garbage collecting strike in Paris. So there's garbage strewn all over my streets in the area, and that the whole protests and vibe just strengthened and got even worse since Thursday, because the government rammed through the retirement reform, which is highly well, a lot of French people don't agree with it, and rather than going to a vote, it didn't get a vote. It's the 11th time this government is using the
presidential veto push through thing.
Yeah, basically they have a special procedure to push things through. And
so what's the retirement age gone to?
It's not over yet, but from 62 to 64.
Okay.
And there's a bunch of other stuff. It's not just the age, and a lot of foreign countries are getting a little bit mistaken by the focus on the age, but the focus on the age is an easy message that the French people in general, 2/3 of the French people, are against the reform. But it's the increase in the number of, because it works through quarters of contributions, the increase in number of contributions you need to participate into the system to be able to cash out. But really, like behind, like I'm shortening a lot of the debates into, there's a whole other big reason to me is, yes, there seems to be some doubt as to whether the system can keep balanced in the next 20 or 30 years, which is fair enough. And the argument of aging population, but it's a bit of a strawman argument because it's not actually true. Although but it's debatable, but it's not now. It's in it depends what happens in the next 20 or 30 years. I can't remember what the timeline is exactly, but really, to me, this whole thing is, and the last time this happened a few years ago when they raised it from 60 to 62, same story is the main, what's at stake in this is to increase and keep opening the market for private retirement funds, rather than keep a system where the solidarity system of one generation of workers supporting the next generation.
I see.
And then one of the things beyond age, which I'm ambivalent about, but what I particularly disagree with is the fact that there's little to no regard because as usual, most of the reforms are will impact the poorer populations with less qualified jobs the most.
Yeah.
And most of the people who are saying, well, I don't know what the problem is, are people who work in offices
Yeah.
and who are not destroyed by age 60 physically.
Yeah.
And there's still a lot of jobs that make you that have you be, and not only a lot of jobs, but a lot of working in industries where you don't want to have old people work. And these people wouldn't be able to earn their retirement fund because they're not the right age yet.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the people who are keeping the peace and like severely repressing people are the police, and the police can retire at age 55. The government is still
What?
Yeah, of course. And the army can retire at age 52 to 55. I can't remember. So I went to check out one of the marches on Wednesday, and then on Thursday, after they rammed through, there was a gathering across from the parliament. So I went to check it out. But by the time I got there, they were already like using water cannons, tear gas, rubber bullets, and I was just in the midst of tens and dozens of armed to the teeth riot police, and it was really scary. And the march I just checked out on Wednesday was the same. There was more riot police than there were marchers. And on the way out, I realized that the march had split out in two sections. So there was, on one hand, a tiny amount of demonstrators and a lot of police. And a few streets away, there were all the rest of the demonstrators and unions, which was super weird. But it's not funny, like how in the years since the yellow vests, Macron has generally decided to enforce and put a lot of money into repressive police to enforce his laws against demonstrators and violently. And that's what's been going on yesterday and Thursday nights. And when you look at the police, and generally speaking, I'm just like going there to be there and peacefully protest. And you look at how the police are, and you're like, well, I feel, yes, I mean, you have achieved your goal. I feel very dissuaded and very scared, so I'm going to turn back and go back home, which is exactly what you want me to do. It's now I know that I'm not, of course, I'm probably in a vocal minority of people who are very against it. However, there is a majority of French people who are against the reform. It's not just me. It's not just what they're calling the extreme left. And the other interesting thing is, part of the reason they rammed it through is they were meant to have a majority, but the presidential majority and their natural allies are fracturing. They're like not agreeing on things anymore. And really, what's scary is it seems like who's benefiting and who will keep benefiting is the extreme right, is the Marine Le Pen's party. Because it seems like people who are more leaning left, like I am, are in a minority. There's more of them, but it seems like if ever they pulled the government apart and there were that wouldn't be an election. Well, not actually, there would be another election, because there would be another parliamentary election for legislative. Then it's likely that the extreme right party would benefit from it. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe nothing will happen. Maybe it's just going to go through at 64. And it's just the general, and interestingly, that was one of the arguments for people, for the traditional party on the right, or at least one half of it, because they're not agreeing as well, was to say that there's not enough regard for difficult jobs in the retirement reform. That there should be provisions for people who have started working early, for people who do tough jobs in various kinds of ways, rather than just saying like it's 62 to 64. And they keep saying, the official line is, it's very funny, the government and the prime minister kept saying they want dialogue and they want to preserve the retirement system, but they don't. They're pulling it apart. Really, I mean, it seems very clear to keep making it necessary or attractive to have an additional private retirement fund. And it's a very big and very juicy market in France.
Well, this does remind me of bullshit jobs. It does.
Oh yeah, completely.
Capitalism isn't an economic system; it's a feudal system. It just transfer of wealth from one to another based on who owns what, and just passing it on and generationally
Yeah.
stacked against every single person who's not of that particular group.
So it's also raising more questions as to, what do I want to do next, and how long do I want to stay in Paris, and etc.
I think it's a place to end it. I
Yeah.
think that we'll look at it next week.
Yeah, and I'll
The
keep reading
future.
some of the history of debt, which is also big on that side. It's like that one's complex but interesting.
Yeah,
Cool.
cool.
Thank you.
But thank you as ever for the conversation. And of course, like, subscribe, comment, leave a 5-star review, because
Yes.
our listeners and rabid fans out there need to know what we should be speaking